Hi everybody, hope you're all doing really well. I'm reading The Dark Tower and here are my thoughts so far. So I just finished Wizard and Glass, which is the fourth book in the Dark Tower series. This was a read-along I was participating in that was organised by Steve Talks Books and stuff. I'm really behind and I don't think I'm going to catch up with the rest of the people who are reading the book, but I am going to be continuing the series and I thought I would just do a quick spoiler-free-ish review slash just discussion about what my thoughts are on the first four books so far. And just a bit of context, I've never read any Stephen King before, so this is my first experience with his writing. And I'm enjoying the series enough that I'm definitely going to be reading my way all the way to the end, like I do want to see how this book series ends. But yeah, starting off with The Gunslinger, I read this back in August and I don't really have too much to say apart from the fact that I left it very confused. But intrigued to know more. It helps that I had a lot of people saying that it gets better and that The Gunslinger is like a prologue for the rest of the series. You know, I think if I hadn't heard that from people, I maybe wouldn't have moved on to the other books. I maybe would have tried out Drawing of the Three, but I'm not 100% sure. But at the same time, I did enjoy its slow and gentle nature, and I especially enjoyed the final confrontation between Roland and the Man in Black, and that whole conversation that they have that kind of sets Roland off on his next part of his journey. I enjoyed the feeling of Roland kind of slowly stalking the Man in Black, you know, slowly catching up with him. It made for a very interesting chase and you definitely get a sense of Roland and his determination to hunt this man down. It's a very good introduction, I think, to Roland as a character. I like seeing his interaction with Jake and how quickly they introduce the idea of Jake's world versus Roland's and the implications of that. It serves as a great introductory book, especially a few books into the series. I understand a little more about what is going on. You see Roland as this solitary character, and I think that's quite important before you see him with his relationships with Jake and the other characters that come in the following books. So I already appreciate Gunslinger a lot more than I did when I first read it. But my general thoughts when I did first read it was, don't know what the fuck that was about, but let's keep going. Moving on to Drawing of the Three, I definitely like this a lot more than The Gunslinger. You get a sense of what the rest of the story is going to be about, and I liked the way it introduced Eddie and Odetta. I feel like this had more of a focus on Eddie as a character, and to be honest that does kind of continue into the following books, but I'll circle back to that later. I definitely like the idea of doors and how Roland is able to navigate them, and both with giving him the motivation of wanting to draw these people into his world, as well as badly needing medication. It was very clever to give a sense of a time limit to this book. It gave some more stakes, which I felt were missing from the previous books. You know, you don't really feel like there was too much at stake in The Gunslinger, apart from that one thing that happens. I liked Eddie as a character as well, and I really enjoyed seeing his journey in this book, from his situation at the airport to what happens with the men he was working for, and how you get to know him and understand who he is, how he got to where he is, his relationship with his brother and how important that is to him, and him challenging Roland. You know, there's lots of layers to his character and he challenges Roland a lot, even hating him, which was really fun to see, especially looking back on how the relationship is now. You know, looking back and seeing kind of how that relationship started, and actually Eddie's opinion wasn't particularly good of him in the beginning. You know, it's just really nice to be able to look back and see how that has progressed. Odetta as a character was very sweet, but we didn't really see as much of her as I maybe wanted to, which I think perhaps detracts from the character journey we see her go through, since we do spend more time with Detta Walker than with Odetta. And whilst I understand that having Detta around adds more tension and danger to Eddie and Roland, I think it maybe would have helped to have seen more of both personalities and to really feel and understand the difference between the two. Detta as a character was interesting. I feel like Stephen King went a bit far with her character. There was a surface level to her character and that was it. But you can say that about Odetta as well, and I kind of understand why that wasn't done as well, but I don't know, I guess I find both characters quite hard to like since they were both very two-dimensional. And Detta's character came almost entirely from her delusions instead of from anything concrete, but I like how that makes you as the reader also wonder about whether the things that she claims happened to her actually did happen, or whether they were all just in her head. Odetta's and Eddie's relationship I felt went by far too quickly. We had very little reason to believe why they should have feelings for each other as quickly as they did, but the fact that they did isn't really a focus and it's mostly just there for Eddie to make bad decisions, so I kind of can forgive it and stuff. It does kind of add a bit of interest to the book, and later on, you know, I do kind of like their relationship, how it progresses after this book, but in Drawing of the Three, I just feel like it was just a bit too quick and had nothing to found itself on, really. Yeah, it was like a case of insta-love with like no driving force behind it. In terms of the things with the third door, I don't really understand the whole point of that character and the things he did, except for the whole idea about Ka and things being connected, I guess. But I feel like that character was just there for Roland to change that one thing that he changes, which I would say, if you've read the books, you know what I'm talking about. You know, but I just kind of didn't really understand what really the point of that third door and that third character really was, aside from that small thing that he needed to do, as well as then Roland then being able to get what he needed because he didn't really care about this guy. You know, it was a bit kind of like, meh. Also, Wastelands, so far, this has been my favourite of the series, I think because it actually sees our characters finally moving towards the Dark Tower, with the previous two books being character introductions as well as setup for the world and the motivations. The Wastelands sees the journey start. I love Susanna as a character, you know, as I said, I felt that Odetta and Detta were very two-dimensional, but that was, I think, done deliberately so that Susanna becomes this complex character who is a mix of both. She's the kind, sweet woman with that hard, gritty edge to her, and I really love her character. Like, she is easily my favourite. I really enjoy seeing who she is in Wastelands and in the small sections we see her in Wizard and Glass. I find her and Eddie's relationship better in this book because it does feel like an established relationship, and the support they provide for each other is great. You know, I found that, like, even if something has started very insta-lovey, if the books continue on with them being a couple and building on that, I find it easier to kind of follow after that happens and stuff, because you're not really thinking about how it started, you're just seeing how it is now. And like, a lot of authors I think are better at writing established relationships than writing the setup. I like that what Roland did in the previous book had consequences, and you see him suffering for both decisions he made previously, the one in the Gunslinger and then the one he makes in the Drawing of the Three, and how those conflict with sort of time and space and stuff. You know, you see him suffering and what that's doing to him. I also liked how he trains Eddie and Susanna as gunslingers. It gives a more badass feel to the book, and I was saying this to my friend, we were discussing, you know, fantasy and how, like, the minute there's like a gun in a fantasy book, you're kind of like, oh, kind of takes away the kind of coolness factor, you know, things are so much cooler when there's bows and arrows and swords and stuff. But I love how this series makes gunslingers cool, with the fact that the guns they use, the skill and the accuracy they use them, and their principles. You know, seeing Roland train Eddie and Susanna, you know, do not forget the face of your father and stuff, and the mantras that they kind of repeat to themselves, you know, it just adds a sort of certain fantastical element to just the idea of almost Wild West kind of guns sort of thing. It just feels more fantasy-like, which I really appreciated. I'm loving the layers to the world building in this book as well, with the bear thing that we see and the power station. I love the moved on world that Roland lives in, and it's this amazing blend of fantasy, old worldy, and the feeling that it's our own world but after a nuclear fallout. You know, it gives me kind of big Shannara vibes when I'm reading it, with the old world's things still grown over but, you know, still around. And I love how this book brings a certain other character back into the narrative and how it relates to Roland and what he's going through. I like how this book develops Eddie and his own thoughts about the quest for the tower and whether he's actually wanting to go. As I said earlier though, I feel like these books have a bigger focus on Eddie and Roland than the other characters, and I wish we got a better look into what Susanna's thinking. As I said, she is my favourite character, and I feel she has a lot more depth to her than we really get given. You know, we spend a lot less time kind of seeing things from her perspective than we do seeing things from Roland or Eddie. I do love Roland as a main protagonist. Like, I am very attached to Roland. He's great. He's just really well written. You find out, you know, more about his morals, his past, why he's driven to do what he does. He's just a fab character, and I'm loving him. And I love his relationship with the other characters. You know, he has very different dynamics with everyone, and I feel like that gives the whole story just a really rich feeling. You know, the characters feel diverse and real. You understand why they have their place in the story. Nothing feels too repetitive or anything like that. You know, there's a different dynamic between each character sort of pairing. The later section in this book with the TikTok man and company is creepy and uncomfortable as hell. I was so stressed reading like that portion of the book. Like I was just like practically skimming my way through it, just being like, I need to find out if my characters are going to be okay because these guys are too clever and too scary and stuff. Like I was freaked out, man. I was freaked out. And I just wanted my characters to be okay. And I just can't really talk about this book without bringing up the evil train. Like, what the fuck? That was weird, and it felt very out of place with the rest of the story, if I'm completely honest. But like, it also adds to the weirdness of the series as a whole. So it doesn't make, you know, it does make sense up to a point. But yeah, fucking weird, bro. Like, evil train that likes riddles. Sure, Stephen, sure. I am curious about the bookshop in the other worlds that we see with the man there, Mr. Tower. Whether he's important will come again later, you know, I don't know, but I'm very, very curious to know what the hell that was about. Which then brings me to Wizard and Glass. I mean, talk about a tangent that went on for too long. Oh my god. If I had to wait 10 years for this book, I believe that was the time difference between Wastelands and Wizard and Glass. If I had to wait 10 years, I would have been pissed. I get the importance of the section. You know, I'm basically going on about this section in the book called Susan, and it basically follows Roland in his younger days, meeting this girl Susan, and kind of just some stuff him and his friends were getting up to. I liked that we got to see Roland in his younger days, when the Gunslingers were still around, when there was more life in the world, when it hasn't moved on as much as it has. You know, but oh my god, it did not need to be as long as it was. Like, I think that's been the longest book so far, and 90% of it was this fucking tangent. You know, the start of this book always wraps up the cliffhanger of the last book in a fairly unsatisfying way. I feel like that could have just been done in the previous book, and then the start of this one be kind of the continuation of the journey before getting onto this tangent, you know. It just felt like you had this tangent sandwiched between important things that were happening in the rest of the series. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about Wizard and Glass. It dragged on for way too long. The Susan portion, while I understand its purpose, just got very dull, repetitive, had a few too many characters that I just didn't give a shit about. I got a bit overwhelmed with how many characters we ended up following, and the dramatic irony was a bit overused at times. You know, there was far too many times that you went to one character, went to another character, and you, the reader, sort of know who's planning what and who doesn't understand what, and it was just a bit kind of like, okay, we get it. They're all very clever and they're all underestimating each other, but, you know, can we go back to the other world where the characters that we've been following? The latter half of the book as well felt a bit out of place. Like, you have this massive long flashback sequence that is boring as fuck and basically provides very little apart from just context for some things, so it could have been done in like half the time. Yeah. And you have that sandwich between the stuff with Yieldy, Evil Train, and then the Wizard of Oz. Like, what? And then we're back on our journey, and I feel like it's a month of reading that I'm never going to get back. Because yes, it took me about a month to get through Wizard and Glass. I started reading it back in December, and I've just finished it the other day. Like, you know, I did like seeing how Roland became involved with the quest of the Dark Tower, how he first became aware of the tower and stuff, and how that came about. But yeah, apart from that, it was just a bit too long for one hell of a tangent. But yeah, as I said, I am really enjoying this series, don't get me wrong. I'm going to see it through to the end. I'm curious to see what the Dark Tower is, what happens with our core set of characters, how it all ends. Wastelands is definitely my favourite. You know, I feel like it was the best pace and it had most stuff that I enjoyed. Everything felt well written as well and stuff. But yeah, those are just sort of my general thoughts on the series so far. I'm going to start Wolves of Calla, I think probably in February actually. I do kind of, because I sort of read about 2 or 3 of those books. I think I read Drawing of the Three, Wastelands, and then Wizard and Glass kind of all in quick succession. I think I really want to just read some other books for now. But I will definitely be coming back to this series. I am really enjoying it so far. It's weird, but it's fun, and the characters are great, and the relationships and just the things that are happening are absolutely fantastic. I am really, really enjoying this series. Have you read The Dark Tower by Stephen King? Please don't give me any spoilers, but what do you think of it? Is it a favourite of yours? Have you read other Stephen King books? Because I hear that it's perhaps one that people who read Stephen King don't like as much. You know, what are your thoughts kind of this series in comparison to his other works? Any comments on the things I've had to say so far? Let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear just any conversation you have to get going. Feel free to leave a like on this video and feel free to subscribe. I post 2 videos a week. But thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.